we are in the throes of a wild Game 1 finish in the Western Conference Finals of the NBA. Your Dallas Mavericks facing off against the Minnesota Timberwolves in Minnesota, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Target Center, where your Mavs have a 4-point lead, 108-104. There's 1.8 seconds left, and I'm sure you're asking, well, Reggie, it's a 4-point lead and only 2 seconds left. Clearly, this game is over.
But no.
It is not.
No.
Josh Green managed to foul Mike Conley with 1.8 seconds left as he was getting off a 3-point shot. So Mike Conley steps to the line.
Thank God he missed the shot.
Thank God he missed the 3-pointer because this could be a free throw to tie. But he will step to the line to try and make 3 free throws with the opportunity to maybe get this thing really close and make this very spicy at the very, very, very end of regulation.
Here's what's interesting. When the Mavericks beat the New York Knicks in overtime and Lucas scored 60-something points at the American Airlines Center, he missed the second free throw on purpose, got his own rebound, put it back in. And that game, in other words, there's a chance he's already made 1 free throw. He makes the second free throw, he'll be down by 2, and he can miss the last one on purpose to give them a chance to tie it up to overtime is what I'm saying.
Well, he won't get that chance because he misses the second free throw. Well, so, I mean, at this point, it does feel like he's going to have to, I don't know. Can you miss intentionally because you have to try and go for a 3?
You have to miss it intentionally and get the rebound and kick it out to somebody for a 3. They practice these things all the time.
That's a lot to ask for.
It's a hell of a lot. That's your only chance.
Yeah.
You cannot just make it. You got to miss it on purpose. Hopefully your big guys get the rebound and kick it out to somebody because you got 2 seconds.
Speaking of big guys, both centers in the game.
And the Mavericks get
the rebound. So the Mavericks win Game 1 for the first time in what feels like a decade. And that's not a joke. It's been quite a while. In fact, you were telling us the statistic before we got on air.
It's not just the Jason Kidd years. The Mavericks had not won but one Game 1 in a playoff series since they won the damn championship in 2011. They were 1-11. Now they're 2-11. The last time they did it was they beat the Clippers, Rick Carlisle's last season, in 2021. 2021, and that was a series that every team won on the road until Game 7, and the Mavericks lost it in Game 7.
So the Mavericks add a win in Game 1. They'll take the first game of the series. They'll start the series in a way because the series doesn't start until someone wins on the road, that happens tonight. And, man, this was quite an interesting game. Like, there's some games that are fun for, various reasons. This was a very, very fun basketball game.
Yes.
For me, I think for, like, the tactical reasons. I was eating up what was happening tactically. But just to start, if the whistle, right? Because that is really important. This is going to be a defensive series with 2 really good defensive teams. And for the Mavericks, the whistle, the way that the game is called matters a ton for them. And this one seemed, I don't know, it might be something that we have to talk about over the course of the series. But, yeah, it was a light whistle. They let him play. There was a point in time where we were looking at it and nobody was in foul trouble.
There was tempo. It wasn't like this is a raggedy game. Neither team was. It was not an ugly game to watch. It wasn't sloppy. Again, we're watching and trying to do a talk show at the same time. But the first half, we were able to watch that before we went on the air. Literally, this had flow and tempo. And the exciting thing for the Dallas Mavericks, what made the difference was Kyrie Irving got off in the first half. He normally scores most of his points in the second half and the fourth quarter. He had 24 points in the first half. He had 15 or 16 points in the first quarter.
Something to that effect. And, yeah, I thought that was very interesting because you could tell that Kyrie, maybe this is just me reading too much in it, but it felt like he breathed the sigh of relief in this game because coming off of that series against the Oklahoma City Thunder, they were doubling him.
Yes,
they were showing him 2 bodies.
Playoff series he ever played in his life, and he won a championship.
Absolutely, they were showing him 2 bodies consistently. The Minnesota Timberwolves have really good personnel, and they did not go with that situation of doubling him. In fact, Anthony Edwards let us know after Game 7 in the previous series that he was going to take the challenge of guarding Kyrie. He wasn't the only one that guarded him. But one thing about it is Kyrie Irving with a single person guarding him is a lot different. He's got the dribble package and all those things, and he was it was very obvious that he was able to drive by whoever he needed to and getting to the paint. He started the layup line of sorts, getting to the paint, attacking the rim, And he was able to get going early. And I think that was something that I think a lot of Mavs fans were praying for and hoping for in all the way through this playoffs. You got your wish in game one of the Western Conference Finals.
Kyrie had 30 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Anthony Edwards, 19 points, 11 rebounds, 8 assists. Luka led all scorers with 33, 6, and 8. He was believe it or not, a -9 on the floor. Kyrie was a +5. Anthony Edwards, a -1.
Yeah, and let's go there because I thought the defensive strategy for the Mavericks was rather effective. It seemed like they were not allowing. They were trying to make sure that the Timberwolves did not get all the way in to the paint. Like that seemed to be one of the things that they continue to do. Right, we're not going to let you get all the way to the restricted area, mind you. We're not letting you get all the way to the rim. But early on, it felt like the Timberwolves did a decent job of whether it was pick and roll or whatever actions they were doing, they were getting those guys into the middle of the floor where they could either create and pass, find somebody in the corner, or put floaters up. In fact, Kyle Anderson, nicknamed Slow-Mo because he moves at his own pace, he was doing some work in the middle. But the weird thing about that, and I think I noted this for
Anderson, by the way, 11 points off the bench.
Yes, and I think he had some assists in that as well.
Yes, he
serves as a pretty good connecting kind of piece. But one of the things I mentioned this to you in the first half. It felt like with the Timberwolves, when they were running their offense with just those actions, whether it was a pick and roll or whatever actions that they were working off, it worked well. They tried to go to the Anthony Edwards isolation, and that didn't work very well for them. Now, Anthony Edwards in isolation, he's a solid player. He's not an otherworldly player in isolation, and the Mavericks were peeling in help early. They were showing bodies, showing help early. So you're playing one-on-one, but also to each side of that player, you have somebody showing off of, I don't know, the player in the corner or showing off the middle of the floor so that if you start trying to attack the right hip or the left hip of whoever's guarding you, most of the time it was Derrick Jones Jr., you're going to see Kyrie Irving, you're going to see P.J. Washington come over and trap you. And so I think that also neutralized some of his effect. Don't get me wrong. He ended up, scoring 19 points, but he was 6 of 16. It wasn't efficient. He was knocking down some threes, but he was not able to get busy in a way that you can maybe anticipate.
He only 5 out of 12 on the threes. And by the way, the rest of the Mavericks scoring, because people are like, well, how do they win? Luka had 33 points. Kyrie had 30. P.J. Washington, 13 points, 7 rebounds, a +12 on the floor. Daniel Gafford, 10 points, 9 rebounds. And Derek Lively II, the rookie sensation, once again, very effective. 9 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists, a +19 on the floor. Daniel Gafford, by the way, a -15 on the board on the floor. P.J. Washington, a +12 on the floor. As for the Minnesota Timberwolves, Dean McDaniel, second team All Defense NBA, 24 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists.
Yeah, and Jane McDaniels is an interesting one because he's one of those pressure points, I think.
He was guarding Luka.
Yes, and one of the things, he is a very good defensive player, but he is not Lou Dort. Lou Dort has that physical presence where he leans on you.
And Dort knows all the tricks.
Yeah, man.
Oh, my God. He can flop. He can flail. He can do dirty stuff, and they don't call it.
But, I mean, the biggest thing for me is he is a physical player. For Luka Doncic, who is a physical player. Jaden Daniels isn't that. Jaden Daniels is long, he's lanky, he's athletic, but one of the things that allowed Luka Doncic was able to do that, that snake dribble or that kind of whole dribble where he's dribbles and gets that guy
his
on
own
hip,
pace. Yeah,
right?
He gets you on the hip and
he
get that Gordat pick and it's over with.
He was able to get into his groove in that way, doing that. And so Jaden McDaniels defensively was not the stopper early on that
actually
maybe
was in the first half. Well, put it like this. Kyrie went off. Luka, because Kyrie was going off, Luka was on the bench a little bit longer. They were allowed to rest him a little bit more so he wouldn't get ball dominant and eat up a lot of minutes. And in fact, I want to say he only played he still played 40 minutes, but most of it was the second half. McDaniels was scoring at will in corners. He kept shooting all these threes.
Yes.
Defensively on Luka only had like 14 points in the first half. It was all Kyrie the first half, which flipped the script for the Dallas Mavericks because that's not how they've been playing since March. With that being said, Karl Anthony Towns, 16.7 rebounds. Rudy Gobert, Defensive Player of the Year, 12 points, 7 rebounds. He was a +10 on the floor. Mike Conley, 6 points, organizing the whole thing, 3 assists. Naz Reid, 15 points off the bench, 5 rebounds. And again, Minnesota had their hands full They did not win the game. The Mavericks stole it.
Yeah, but before we get to talking about any of that, I did want to go back to Jaden McDaniels because offensively, if you're not familiar with the Timberwolves, Jaden McDaniels kind of exists as their PJ Washington.
Yeah.
Really good perimeter defender, but then also during the course of the season, he shot 33.7% from three. So,
but the playoffs,
yeah, he's been shooting very well.
Just like
playoffs.
PJ didn't do much in the regular season. Playoffs, he's standing on business.
Precisely. And so with that being the case, teams defensively, I think for the most part have said, we are going to dare that guy.
Exactly.
We're going to help
just
off
like
of him.
PJ.
We're going to help off of him. We're going to dare that guy to beat us. And Jaden McDaniels, all the way through this playoffs, I mean, he really turned it up in the latter parts of their series with the Denver Nuggets. But he showed out early in this series that he's also still going to knock down those shots. So
Exactly.
It's going to be an interesting thing to maybe see if they adjust to. But Naz Reid continues to be a thorn in the side of teams that he plays against. And if you're a Mavs fan and you follow this team, you'll remember there's a point in time in the season where Naz Reid buried the Mavericks in one of those games just because he knocked down a whole bunch of threes. And it's not just knocking down threes. He just seems to make plays when they need plays.
He knocked down his threes tonight, though. He was 3 out of 6 from long range. And overall, the T-Wolves shot a very, I want to say, is damn near 40% from threes. I have to look it all up. Point I'm trying to make is the Mavericks were not making their threes early, but the Mavericks were scoring in the paint, and they got a lot of contributions from everybody.
Yes, the Timberwolves, as you were talking about, they shot 36.7%. It kind of cooled off towards the back half, which absolutely helped. And the Mavericks, I do want to get back to this very positive.
Mavericks, by the way, shot 24% from threes.
Yeah, but they got down low very easy, and it was drives.
Exactly.
The big thing, obviously, that you think about when you talk about the defense of the Timberwolves, Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert, 4-time Defensive Player of the Year. They're playing what is called a drop coverage, where when that pick and roll happens, that big, in this instance, Rudy Gobert, is trying to sit back and give you that space if you want to play there, but he's not going to let you get all the way to the rim. And also, with the consideration of the rollers that the Mavericks like using, he's not trying to allow you to get that lob to them. The Mavericks were doing a lot of things to try and draw him out of that space. And even with that drop coverage, they were doing a great job of taking advantage of that runway that was given. And the Mavs, I think they got downhill in a way that even during the course of the series, this postseason, they've done a decent job trying to manipulate that and make that happen. This is the best that I've seen them get downhill, which is really a great thing for the Mavericks. And it's going to be a tough thing for Minnesota because you can't let a team attack the middle of your defense in the ways that I think the Mavericks did against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So it's going to be interesting because I think the very first kind of chess plays of this series looks like the Mavericks won that in my estimation because they were able to get downhill, and the different coverages that they threw at Luka Doncic did not slow him down. Kyrie Irving was able to get busy. Those are two things that you can't let happen if you're trying to stop the Mavs, and obviously for the Mavs, those are two things that you love seeing in Game 1.
Minnesota's going to have to make those adjustments. That's exactly what you're saying, and what they're doing on the TV right now. They're reviewing the play that I thought changed the game. This game is going back and forth. What I loved about this game, the Mavericks weren't down by double digits. And, oh, my God, they got to climb out of a hole. This thing was going – the T-Wolves had the lead most of the first half, but this was really a back-and-forth game. But the reviewing over and over again is what I thought was the determining factor in this game. This game, the Mavericks took the lead 104-102, and a three-pointer was taken by Anthony Edwards, I believe. Cat came in out of nowhere and slammed it to tie the game. The referee said no, basket interference. They showed several replays. Because we're doing a talk show, I cannot, and we got a total of the texted in. Can y'all please explain why Karl Anthony Towns' bucket didn't count? I don't know basketball. Please tell me. Only thing I can think of is they didn't have a review available to them because they could have reviewed it, and because they've been showing it over and over again. It was a questionable call. That was the only questionable call. And again, because it did not tie the game, all of a sudden, Minnesota's in desperate mode, and they're jacking up threes, and they need to.
And then on the off chance that you're not familiar with the basket interference rule, no player can touch the ball while it's still in the cylinder above the hoop. So if you just imagine, just like the goal line in the NFL, it goes vertically from the hoop.
Straight
and if that ball still, if a majority of that basketball is still within that imaginary cylinder, and you touch it, it's ruled basket interference. And if it's the defense, obviously that means the basket goes. If it's the offense, that means it's a turnover. Yeah. And in that instance, that's what they ruled there.
That's what they ruled.
You're saying that you saw that it was not
I'm looking at all these replays over your head, and it's showing that basketball was slightly outside of that cylinder. And that's why I was like, thank God the Mavericks won that game, because that was igniting the crowd And it just basically took the crowd out of it when they said, nope, that don't count.
817 says it was reviewed and confirmed, so maybe maybe the Mavericks just got a good officiating instance. Which, hey, that happens.
We'll take that.
You absolutely will take that. So I thought it was a really interesting. There's a lot still. I think it's a meaty game because there was a lot of tactics. I was talking with our friend Kevin Gray, before this game, and he was like, "Hey, what do you expect?" And I was like, "I have no idea." Right? Like, there's so many different things that can be employed. Both of these teams have a lot of ways that they can win basketball games. And now getting to see it, there was a lot of things that were there to kind of be played with and thought about. So there's still so much. It's a really dense game to break down. And there's a lot of ways that it could continue to go.
It does not mean that the Dallas Mavericks, now they're going to win it. No. Minnesota is so dangerous and they're so long. And again, it's about adjustments. The Mavericks have taken home court advantage. But that does not mean that Minnesota can't come down here and regain it. I mean, you saw the Clippers win down here. You saw Oklahoma City win down here. You hope it doesn't happen, but nobody's expecting the Mavericks or the Minnesota Timberwolves to sweep this damn thing.
Super tight game. I think this sets up for the tight series that I think we all imagine. I don't think anybody's predicted this game, at least when we talk about like the quote-unquote experts, to be anything less than a 6-game series, 6 or 7 games. And you can see why. Right, both teams playing great defense, both teams having runs, both offensively, defensively, and ultimately the difference in this game is 3 points, 108-105 in favor of the Dallas Mavericks. They win game 1. Was there anything else that you felt was like super notable? I thought it was interesting that Jason Kidd, he opened up his rotation again. He didn't play everybody necessarily, or he didn't play everybody tons of minutes. Jaden Hardy got early minutes.
Yep.
Dante Exum got a few minutes here or there. Tim Hardaway Jr. shows up in this. Now, the impacts aren't there.
Josh Green.
This was still Josh Green got time. The impacts were really still largely Kyrie and Luka when we talk offensively, your bigs, and then, obviously your wings that you trust defensively in PJ and Derek Jones Jr. But he opened this up, and it seems like he is very cognizant of the fact that any of these guys can possibly help us. So let's start the series, getting these guys in the feel of it. We'll watch. We'll see who's making impacts, and those guys are probably the ones that get more minutes as the series goes along.
But like this, he showed them something they didn't expect, and I think Kyrie Irving showed them something that they didn't expect by scoring early and often in the first half. Let's see how they adjust to that. Let's see if Kyrie keeps that up, because he's the highest scoring fourth quarter player in the NBA this season. So if he's doing all that in the first half, that's actually going to flip the script on a lot of things that the T-Wolves probably thought to expect.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the tough things, and from the 972, this is very true. Jaden Hardy's 4 assists were clutch.
Yes.
That's one of the things that's been nice to see, is him being able to find his teammates in a way that I don't think that we've previously seen from him in big ways.
And he penetrates.
Yes, he does. He gets downhill. He gets into the heart of the defense. And I think that was the thing that was interesting to me. Kyrie and Luka, I mean, clearly both of them over 30 points, or both of them 30 or more points. That's something that you clearly want to stop. I don't know if the Timberwolves are going to be capable of it. Game 1, they clearly didn't. If they do find ways to, now you're not going to stop them, but if you find ways to slow down Kyrie and Luka, in this game, you didn't get a lot of scoring from those other guys. PJ Washington, 2 of 8, which is okay. Derek Jones Jr. didn't really knock down shots at a high clip. Nobody else really knocked down shots in a big way. If that pops up, that gets interesting, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Ultimately, what needed to happen happened. Your Mavs get a win on the road, 108-105 in game 1. 3 more wins. 3 wins away rather from the NBA Finals. And so shout out to Jason Kidd breaking what would have been a little bit of a, I don't know if you want to call it a curse, but a trend of losing
a Mavericks
game 1s.
Curse.
Yes, right. That's right. And ultimately putting themselves, again, 3 games away from winning the Western Conference and
going to the NBA Finals.
There you go.